Hello there, my name is Sixo, but more on that later, as it's all a bit smoky in here. Yep, for today's perusal, it's FT-31D Smokey, the latest release in their Stunticon lineup. Let's see what it's all about. FT-31D Smokey is the latest figure from popular third-party outfit FansToys, and sees them bringing to life the penultimate character in their Stunticon lineup, its Drag Strip. This release follows on the heels of Rogue King, Spoiler and Magnum, all of which have been well received so far and puts us one step closer to assembling the full Marauder combined form. Drag Strip and the rest of the Stunticons first appeared in the memorable G1 cartoon second season two-parter, The Key to Vector Sigma, and were created by Megatron as a way to bolster the Decepticon forces on the ground. They're mostly presented as your typical thuggish goons for much of the series, but that hasn't stopped Drag Strip's race car alternate form, with that signature yellow colour scheme remaining a memorable part of any Decepticon lineup. It's one I'm looking forward to seeing in hand today, along with doing plenty of comparisons with the other options for this character on the market in the ongoing third-party Stunticon wars. Last thing before we begin, today's review comes courtesy of TF Source, so you'll find a link to their site in the video description below. The plan for today is to give you my first impressions before getting a full photo review up on their blog soon. So here is Smokey in the box, and it's your typical FansToys affair with a bit of nice character artwork on the front, and some promo pics and a bit of blurb on the back. And it feels like we're finally getting there with this one, folks. I mean, it's been a little while since the last one in this lineup, but hey, we're what is this, the fourth one now? So yeah, we're definitely getting there. Genuinely, I just had to remind myself how many it was there, because it's just been sort of Stunticon overload of late, hasn't it? With x-transbots, DX9, these guys. Where does it end? Anyway, the FansToys set has been pretty good so far, so cannot wait to check this guy out today. Right, well, included in the box is a pair of purple guns, this rather characterful additional smirking face, this little piece which is like a faux driver, like his top half anyway, just the sort of shoulders, hands and head of a little driver to fit in the alternate mode, a set of instructions and a character card, and then of course you've got the actual toy, which looks really very handsome indeed, and certainly very yellow. I mean, that might sound kind of obvious considering the very nature of the character, but I perhaps wasn't expecting him to be this banana-y, let's say. It's a very, very vibrant yellow, and it looks really good. It's kind of golden in little parts, just like here on the chest. It fades really nicely to a kind of slightly softer, more kind of canary yellow as well, and I really like it actually. Visually, he's incredibly striking, which really can only be a good thing, as this is, after all, a character we've seen done twice over already from x-transbots and DX9, as I've already mentioned, and so I do feel, to a certain extent, or I was feeling anyway before I opened it, like a little bit of lag about kind of my enthusiasm for this release. I think just on the basis of having seen it done so many times over, but already looking at this in hand, I'm actually kind of pumped for it. I'm feeling it. Now you have to adjust a couple of little bits straight out the box, like the knees you have to peg in, and you have to fold out his little purple ears as well. He looks a bit strange without that, but first impressions again are that this is a very handsome, very tidy robot mode. Just doing a quick 360, you can see that there's a distinct absence of kibble going on, except where you would expect there to be kibble, like the wheels on the sides of the ankles and on the shoulders. They're all in the correct places, but actually I do think that that's a really nicely put together robot, very, very handsome from all angles, and very tidy as well, possibly more than the competitors, but we'll see about that in just a moment, won't we? It's not just looks though, he feels really good to the touch as well. I mean, he's got some die-cast going on there. It's not the heaviest FansToys release that I've ever had in hand. I mean, he's definitely got a bit of weight to him, that's fair to say, but you know, you can detect that there are elements of die-cast, I think maybe somewhere here in the arms, but it's not obvious. It's not like running through the whole thing, which I think is probably good. It can be overused a little bit sometimes, but there's some nice chrome going on, rubber tires, things like that, so there's plenty to keep FansToys fans happy here. Now, the default face on this guy is kind of mean. He looks kind of suitably thuggish, which I really like, and I love the colour as well. It's a welcome pop versus the dominant yellow going on elsewhere. That orange, purple and red combo is really quite something. I do think that this is a really glorious head sculpt overall. Already mentioned the kind of two-tone colours going on the chest area, and I think it's just worth highlighting. That looks really, really good. I do like this kind of slightly darker kind of orangey yellow that they've got going on there, this burnt colour. That's really, really nice. You've then got his gorgeous chrome chest nipples just there, which looks fantastic actually. Really pleased they went with chrome on that one, because it's hugely eye-catching. There's a bit more chrome on the wheel rims and as already mentioned, you've got rubber tyres as well to kind of complete the look. Interesting to see that it's clearly the front spoiler from the alternate mode that's on the sides of his chest just there. I'm sure many of you will have spotted that from promotional pictures, things like that. I'd not really clocked it myself, but yeah, cannot wait to see how that all unfolds during transformation. And a very neat little set of legs as well. Really love these big fat tyres on the side. They fold away just about as neatly as they need to, and one other thing, you do just need to kind of tab in the feet straight out of the box as well, but yeah, it looks really good on the whole. So yeah, first impressions on this guy, quite good so far. Now there is quite a lot of articulation going on, some of it very stiff, and you can see that with the neck just here, which you can even hear a bit of the old FansToys squeak going on there. And he, yeah, good old stiff neck joint. Will look up ever so slightly and will look down just a little bit as well, but not really too much, but it's enough, isn't it? Now the arms will come up at the shoulder to about 90 degrees, and they will go all the way up and over as well, so that's something. There is a bicep swivel, again, a little bit stiff in there, a bit of a squeak, but you can get it going. And there is about a 90-degree elbow bend, and then you've got articulated fingers as well, exactly the same as usual FansToys fare. You've got wrist swivel, of course, but then each finger is articulated at 2 points, and then the thumb is just on a ball joint as well. Coming down, you've then got a very tight waist swivel again, and if you get the hip flaps up and out the way, you can check out the hips just there, which will go up to about 90 degrees, and they will go from side to side as well. They're almost in a little double joint just there, and then you get about 90 degrees again, I would say, at the knee. So that's fine. Knee joint looks kind of high up actually on the leg. I will say that proportionally this bit is quite long. It doesn't look too bad actually in terms of the proportion of the overall toy, but it's just worth mentioning. And then you do also get an ankle tilt. So yeah, all told, maybe not the most articulated Masterpiece styled toy ever. I mean, it's all perfectly perfunctory. There's everything there that you would expect or need. It's just that there's nothing really that remarkable either. Like there's no ab crunch, there's no butterfly joints in the shoulders, there's no outward ankle tilt or anything like that. So it's all there, it all does exactly what you need it to do. It's just not the most limber or kind of fluid thing either. I guess if we're being honest, it's comparable in that sense to a lot of FansToys bots. I mean, they're not exactly known for their like extreme articulation or anything like that, but what I will say is that the joints are all super tight, really solid, and it feels really good. Then of course you want to go ahead and get those guns pegged in to his palms, and they actually go in really stiffly. I didn't think they were going to go in initially, but they just take a bit of force to get in there, and then you can kind of wrap the hands around, and that looks pretty good and feels very solid, as I say. And honestly, that just about does it for me. If you watched any of my other videos, you may know I'm a bit of a sucker for bots with 2 guns, and so it is here. Just normalize that as far as I'm concerned. 2 guns is better than 1. And this guy just looks really spectacular. The guns are slightly longer than I might have anticipated, but honestly, with them both in hand, it just looks great. And then you're going to want to get that additional face on. Now the helmet is going to come off as well, just like so, and that enables you to then take the face off. So you just want to kind of get your thumb under the front of it like so, plug the other one in, just goes in very securely, and then get that helmet back on as well, because he looks a bit silly without it, and Bob's your uncle. And just check that out. What a geezer, eh? Absolutely suits him down to a T. I really, really like that face. You know, sometimes these kind of exaggerated alternate faces can look super goofy, but here, FansToys, you've done it well. On the whole then, I've got to say, for something I was slightly tepid about before actually opening the box, I'm really digging this robot mode. I think it's a corker. Anyway, let's go ahead and do a bit of a comparison. And first up, we've got a couple of Masterpiece car bots. We've got Sunstreaker and Plus Smokescreen just here. And I think probably the first thing that most people are going to comment on is the size of this thing, because it's noticeably larger than Takara's own car bots, as you can see. And some people will like that, and some people will just be perplexed by it, particularly if they've not been really paying attention to this project. You know, you may have escaped your notice how tall the kind of limb lads are. You know, they are actually much larger than you might have anticipated, as you can see here. And I don't know, for me, I've kind of come around to it a little bit. Initially I was like, oh, you know, they're way too large, it doesn't work for me. I was really kind of surprised by it, but I know some people really dig it, and that's how some people seem to interpret what the size of these characters should be, you know, based on the cartoon and the holy scale chart and all of that kind of malarkey. So really it's horses for courses, I guess. I mean, he's so large, he's practically head height with stuff like Ratchet and Inferno, again from Takara. And again, it's much bigger than I was going to anticipate, certainly, but It does look pretty good. It does look good. I mean, he's practically the same height as a Masterpiece Seeker, as you can see here, even if these are the unofficial versions from Make Toys. I mean, I guess it does make the Stunticons a little bit more imposing or formidable maybe, so maybe it works in that regard. One thing's for sure though, FansToys have definitely delivered some dastardly delicious Decepticons of late. I mean, just look at this lineup, it's absolutely fabulous, and I cannot wait to see them finish off these Stunticons. And here he is with the rest of the crew, and it's only fair to say that it's coming together very nicely indeed. Now, spoiler, their breakdown was the first of this set that I handled actually, despite being the second to be released, and I was a little bit, not underwhelmed, but not like amazed either. But I do think with each subsequent release that I've handled, I've been more and more impressed. And so far anyway, we'll check out Transformation in just a moment, this guy looks pretty good. There's just a really nice kind of thuggish energy to these guys, even if they are a little bit stoic and whatever else. But I do think that they're going to take up a lot of room as well. I mean, versus the x-transbots set, they're kind of huge, as I say, and definitely going to be space eaters, but still can't wait to see it all combined. We still don't really know how that's going to happen even. And then here are the three versions of this character that we've seen in Masterpiece form so far. So left to right, you've got x-transbots, then of course you've got the FansToys in the middle, and then DX9 on the right. And they're all very, very different, as you'll no doubt see straight off the bat. Height is the most obvious thing to talk about here, but there's quite a lot to comment on in terms of aesthetics as well, because they're all incredibly different. I mean, firstly, FansToys definitely has the richest colour, and I would say the nicest colour scheme overall. It actually makes the x-transbots version look a little bit like too lemony yellow, almost like a little bit sickly by comparison. And whilst the DX9 does have a nice colour scheme overall, it's just got like a little bit too much gold for my liking, whereas the FansToys keeps it simple and looks very striking as a result. So definitely on that score, for me, it's FansToys. I also think there's an argument to be had that FansToys have got the nicest looking robot mode overall, like the nicest aesthetics. It's certainly the cleanest, it's got like the least kibble going on. DX9 makes a good effort in that regard as well, but just, I don't know man, the proportions of that thing, it's a little bit too lanky for my tastes and just kind of has a slightly goofy-esque quality that I'm kind of not into in robot mode. So whereas the x-transbots I do really like overall, there is definitely a little bit more kibble going on. So I think overall FansToys again probably wins in terms of sheer aesthetics. And if we do a bit of a rear view, you'll no doubt see what I mean. I mean, x-transbots on the left just there, I really love that toy overall, but there's no doubt that there's a bit of kibble going on. It's got all the kind of front spoiler hanging off his shoulders at the back, and then stuff hanging off his bum as well. So it's definitely not the tidiest from the back, and it does kind of suffer a little bit as a result. Again, DX9 very clean on the whole, a couple of little bits on the backpack there, but generally it's a very, very good effort, and I do like the way that toy tabs together very solidly. It's just the proportions in general look for me, I think. Whereas x-transbots again, very clean, really nice sculpt, looks great. It's got a lot going for it. Definitely think it's one of the strongest head sculpts of the three as well. Way better than DX9 in that regard. X-transbots I do really like as well. I think the head sculpt is very good. Just I think there's a little bit more personality in FansToys, and I really love the use of chrome and stuff like that on there as well, which just elevates it slightly in my opinion. Ultimately though, I think what will decide this for a lot of people is the size, because quite simply, if you want your Stunticons the same size as the Masterpiece Carbots, the obvious answer is x-transbots. It's the only set that delivers that, and that's again the one on the left, the shortest one overall. Whereas if you do like them a little bit larger, you've kind of got options between DX9 and FansToys. For me personally, in that arena, in the individual bots, it's FansToys. That's just my personal opinion. That said, the combined mode of DX9 really slaps. Like, I'm a big fan, whereas we haven't really seen what the combined mode of FansToys is going to look like past a few early renders. So at that point, this is a bit of an unknown, and it does make it a bit of a difficult decision, I think, if you're going to get in on one set overall. So, but you know, play the odds, see how it's working out for you. I think realistically they've all got their merits. There is not a bad toy here as such, even though there are quibbles that I have with DX9's individual robot in particular. They've still all got good things that can be said about them as well. Anyway, it's very difficult for me to definitively call this round of the Stunticon Wars when I've only sussed out this guy in robot mode so far. So let's go ahead and check out Transformation. Right, well, that's transformation done, and honestly I don't think that was too bad. I think everything clicks together pretty nicely. There's a couple of little fiddly bits along the way here and there, but generally speaking, quite enjoyable. Some clever stuff too. I really like the way the whole of the front of the car comes together, particularly this little bit along here. I think that's really nice. Obviously we saw earlier that it formed the sides of the body in robot mode, and true enough, it didn't disappoint in terms of how it actually unfurled. So yeah, really quite clever engineering, very, very different from the other two on the market as well. A couple of bits in the back end did give me a tiny bit of jip just figuring it out. Mostly these back wheels have to rotate round quite a large degree actually, and it's just the mechanism for doing so. There's nowhere to really kind of get your finger in and twist it, particularly as obviously the wheel itself wants to rotate, so it's a tiny bit fiddly, but honestly, it's not really that bad. It's pretty good overall. In fact, in the grand scheme of FansToys transformations, I would say that this guy is on the simpler side, let's put it that way. Everything tabs together really nicely, the result is super clean, and it's actually quite a bit of fun. The only real problem I did have is the little pin that holds this chrome piece in here, the engine. That actually came out, the pin, altogether, it just fell out, and so this piece came off, but it does seem to be just a process of sliding it back in, so slightly irritating, but not the end of the world. And the result is very tidy indeed, isn't it? Absolutely love it. Again, that colour scheme is just beautiful. We'll do a comparison with the other two in a minute, but really this thing looks gorgeous. A lot going for it. Just got a really nice shape to it. I don't know, it's a little bit wider than some of the competition, but there's just something about it that really kind of appeals to me. I mean, there's a couple of little bits peeking through from the robot mode, but on the whole, exceptionally good, aesthetically speaking. As with the robot mode, the finish here is kind of spectacular too. I really love that kind of burnt yellow going on with the nice Go Faster red stripe. That's great. We've already mentioned the rubber tyres and the chrome rims, but it bears repeating just because they do look exceptionally good. Needless to say, that chrome section in the middle is a bit of a highlight, can't help but catch your eye, and it definitely does stand out much more than the comparative sections on the competition. He's even got a little die-cast steering wheel in there for a bit of a win, and really just that whole driver's section looks great. There's more chrome at the rear as well with these little sections. Are these exhausts? I don't know, someone tell me, or if you're a bit of a Formula 1 nut, you may know better than me, but either way, they look pretty good. Now, speaking of the little driver's section here, of course we've got that little accessory that we could just go ahead and plonk on, just kind of tabs in place. It's not particularly tight fitting or anything like that, it will just kind of fall off, I guess, if you tipped him upside down, so maybe just don't do that. But it does look pretty nifty. It certainly looks like he fits in very well and kind of completes the look, if anything. I mean, I don't know if it's something I'll be using a whole bunch other than maybe in the odd photo here or there, but it's still kind of a fun inclusion, isn't it? Now, it's not the only addition you can make to this vehicle form, as you can put his guns on the back like so. Just kind of clips onto this little peg just there, and you can see there's a little slot for the handle also. Now, it is actually a little bit fiddly. You kind of got to get it at the right angle and kind of, there we go, just kind of slot it in like that. Now, I did fiddle with it quite a bit actually, but once you figure out the exact right angle to get it in, it's actually incredibly secure as well and looks kind of cool. I mean, as much as they're also cool cars, the Stunticons are meant to be ready for battle, so this definitely looks the part. I really like it. And it's kind of the crowning glory on what I do think is an absolutely exceptional vehicle mode overall. Like, I really, really am digging this thing. And as I said earlier, I was kind of feeling a little bit so-so about the whole idea of this guy to begin with, but you know, seeing him in hand now, transforming him up, both modes, I think he's really, really good. Which definitely leads us on nicely to comparison time with the other options on the market, doesn't it? And again, we've got the x-transbots version just here on the left, and the DX9 on the right, and of course FansToys in the middle, and it's amazing to me how different these three things are actually, just looking at them now. You wouldn't think it could get this different, you know, three different interpretations of essentially the same thing, but they all, from robot mode to vehicle mode, just so unique. It's incredible. Now, I actually really do think that the only real fair way to assess these guys is with a bit more of an aerial view, because it's from a top down that you kind of get a real sense of the distinctive proportions going on here, the different looks, all of that kind of stuff, and the color schemes as well. I mean, we have already talked about how yellow this guy is, and you can really see it in this mode. You know, with both DX9 and x-transbots opting for a little bit more gold here and there, particularly on areas such as this, which they've both got. And actually the x-transbots version, the yellow looks really kind of like a bit strange by comparison. Like, this is much more pleasing to the eye, I've got to be honest. The FansToys, they've, for me anyway, already said it, I know, but definitely the nicest colour scheme. But in terms of the proportions, you can see what I'm saying, that this is a lot wider as well in comparison to both the other two. No doubt that X-Transbots is the smallest overall, and I think there's a little bit less disparity between the front and back wheels as well, where you get a much larger rear wheel on both of the other versions. So I would imagine, look, I'm not a car guy really, but I would imagine that both of the other versions maybe fly a little bit more faithful. You know, they might kind of be a bit more real world proportions. But I do kind of like the FansToys. I just think it looks really nice. That's just me. So, and I got to be honest about it. And the finish, you know, things like the chrome just here, does look a lot nicer as well. I mean, as I kind of already alluded to as well, there are positives to all of these, and even where you can see little nitpicks here and there, you know, it's all part of a greater package. It's very possible to kind of nitpick any of these, really, but they've all got their merits as well, is what I would say. Even this guy with this head sculpt thing just going on here, which I know people are always dying to point out, and yes, look, it's absolutely ridiculous that you can see the head sculpt there in this vehicle mode. Also worth just doing a quick comparison with the Masterpiece Carbot. This is Trax, just to show you the real size of this thing, because it's clearly a very formidable machine, and it's certainly going to give a bit of challenge to your old Carbots there. Look at the size of it. Overall then, I've really not got much bad to say about this guy. Really nice robot mode, love the vehicle mode, the transformation has its quirks, but on the whole, it's kind of fun. And yeah, he's just good, man, he's really solid. Another great Stunticon, what can I say? Go get it. It's a toot. Now, as already mentioned, this review does come courtesy of TF Source, so you will find a link to their site in the video description below. And I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. Do you like what you see? Not so keen? Let me know. Otherwise, that's it from me, so don't forget to drop me a like if you enjoyed today's video, and have a great rest of your day. TTFN.